What's up, the squad? Back with another video. I seen the titles go down. Make sure you hit the like button, hit that subscribe button for me, please. Y'all see it right here. So check this out. I'm sure many of y'all know this by now. You literally have, and this is true. You know when you have it. It says rhinos of the GOP are shielding Ilhan Omar from accountability. Nancy Mace is exposed, a lot, and she's been on top of it. I can't lie. Nancy Mace has been one that's been on top of it for a while now, and I definitely love it. She's definitely being truthful when it comes down to it, and I'd rather somebody be truthful than somebody beating around the bush. Check it out right here.
I tried to subpoena her immigration records, her husband's immigration records, and it was Republicans that killed my motion.
Yeah, and what's going on with that? Do you have any more insight you can share on that front?
As far as I know, nothing's going on, and nothing will go on. And that's Congress for you, because both sides protect the other.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Which is pretty wild, but it's definitely crazy. One thing about it though, you have Nick Shirley here. Let me unplug this in a way. You have Nick Shirley here, and explaining more so of Ilhan Omar behind her bringing in more and more Somalians to Minnesota. Now, from where I've started with this, I thought they were obviously coming, from Somalia. They're not just coming from obviously Somalia and these. They're actually coming from other states as well. We know that there's fraud in other states. There has been a lot of talk, especially in Ohio, but there's definitely some Somalians coming from other states to live in Minnesota, and it's more so of having that, takeover, and it's pretty wild. Definitely pretty wild. Check this out.
Now let's talk about people like Ilhan Omar and her influence here on the Somalian community. What influence does she have on what happens here?
Well, she's a key reason that we have so many Somalis here. She was a big proponent of drawing them in because once she realized how loose the regulations were here on all of this money, this welfare money, this assistance payments, she started bringing the Somalis in, and they came in from all around the country. So not only were they coming from Somalia, they were coming from Texas and Florida, New York, and everywhere else, because the word went out, you got to come to Minnesota because it's open season here. And so that's why, and they're still coming here, and they're still gonna get money. And so Ilhan Omar is, she's the godmother of the Somalis.
And so whatever she says goes.
Yes.
And you keep referring that Somalians don't move alone. If one of them moves, 10 of them move.
Yes.
So that's how they're able to multiply and almost compound here as far as their populations.
And so the idea is that they want to repopulate as quickly as possible. So that's why all these Muslim women you see, they're always pregnant all the time. Because when you have all these children, now you can start to overtake a city, a society, and now you run for school board, you run for office.
Exactly.
We had a Somali guy, I couldn't believe he didn't get elected mayor of Minneapolis, but Jacob Fry, who was elected mayor, he's even worse. He bows down to the Somalis. He tries to speak their language.
It's even police officers that's Somalians, and you can definitely tell like it's moving fast, but it's moving. I say that it's moving at its own pace. Like it's moving in a slow way, but also fast. If y'all know what I mean. Like I don't know. It sounds a little weird, but the way that they're moving, it's literally like it's like a Somalian takeover. I don't know if y'all seen the malls, but everything.
It's embarrassing.
It's wild.
And so these Somalis, they're Muslims, and Muslims are able to have 4 wives. And
yes.
They're able to have, I don't know, I doubt there's a cap to how many kids you can have, but by having 4 wives, you're able to have more kids than a person with just 1 wife.
Yes.
And so obviously they're going to multiply and compound inside of Minnesota. So who knows what Minnesota will look like in 50 years from now.
Exactly.
If this doesn't stop, Minnesota's done. It will be Somalia.
Like, we know the fraud attracted them.
But that's the thing, though. Like, I just got done talking about Ohio. Like, if they take over Minnesota when it comes to years, from now, what's to say that it's not going to be other places? That's why a lot of this stuff has to be handled ASAP. And I'm so glad that President Trump is in office because a lot of this stuff is definitely getting handled right now.
Initially,
you literally just had Tim Walz getting caught in so many
what
lies.
attracted them to come here? Because a lot of them came underneath Obama with what was happening in Somalia. A lot of refugees were taken into the United States. What attracted them to come straight to Minnesota? It's freezing up here.
I think part of the reason was that the churches, especially the Lutheran Church, got involved with bringing over a lot of refugees, and it started back with the Hmong population, which was very large in St. Paul, and I was happy to have them here. They worked, they opened businesses, they were good community members, they're good citizens. And so I think they leaned on the churches to say, hey, we need to bring these people over because they're refugees, they're fleeing conflict. What conflict? I mean, they're always at conflict. They're tribal people, they're always at war. Bringing them over here doesn't cure that. All it does is bring those problems over here.
When they were initially brought over, did you think, as they were initially brought over as refugees, was there a plan for them to eventually go back to Somalia?
No, I think the plan was that once they got here and they had their hand out and the state started putting money in, they said, I'm not going anywhere. And you're right, they hate the cold weather because it gets really cold here. But when you're getting $1 million a year, you can live through the winter.
And Trump, in a press conference, he was talking about how all they do is complain. He said the word bitch, all they do is bitch, and they complain. If they're coming from paradise, then they could complain, but they're coming from garbage, is what Trump said, and they're then complaining. How come you think some people that fled a place that was so horrible now come here to the United States and they continue to complain and play victim to the point where they call, if you don't support what they're doing, they call you an Islamophobe or they call you racist, to the point where eventually everyone's kicked out of an apartment complex and it's full of just one race? Doesn't that make them racist?
And that's the end of that video. I can go check that out, Nick Shirley, on YouTube. But my thing is like, I feel like it's all set in stone. Like when you go, obviously, and they have these Somalians in Minnesota, but then think about this. They have them in Minnesota, right? If you got these Somalians in Minnesota, it's almost like, in a way, like I want to make this sound, it's almost like you have these Somalians in Minnesota, and mind you, I showed y'all videos. They don't want to speak English. They don't want to learn how to speak English. It's like they had whatever they got going on. That Somalian culture, that's what they have, and that's what they want. Nothing else. Nothing else. Y'all see what's happening in New York? Same thing. Nothing else. So if you have this, it's easy to say, when it comes down to Ilhan Omar being a godmother of this, as they said, I'm telling y'all, it all makes sense. It all makes sense with a lot of them looking like, oh well, they're gonna follow what I got going on anyways. And then you have a mayor that's allowing a lot. I mean, come on. It's all right there in front of their faces. This is a flashback. It says, flashback to when Ilhan Omar begged the judge to show leniency for 9 Somalis in Minnesota who are charged with joining. Y'all know. I can't say the word on here, but, and hopefully, I can't. I'm going to make sure this not popping up on here. You can't say certain stuff on here, y'all. But I'm going to play what I'm going to play. And they'll probably say it. Now, hopefully I don't get in trouble for this, but it's on Fox. It's on Fox News.
Defense attorneys are asking for leniency, but so are several others who filed letters to the judge on behalf of the defendants. But U.S. prosecutors responded tonight with strong arguments why all of them should, in fact, receive the recommended sentence. Election night was just 2 days ago, but it seems Minnesota Representative-elect Ilhan Omar may have already made her first move as an elected official. In a letter signed November 8th, Omar asks a U.S. district judge for compassion when sentencing 9 Minnesota Somali American men convicted of trying to join the terrorist group ISIS. She says the best deterrent to fanaticism is a system of compassion. We must alter our attitude and approach if we truly want to affect change. We should refocus our efforts on inclusion and rehabilitation. But she's not the only one. 13 letters, including one from the Dean of Students at Minneapolis Public Schools, were also sent to the judge asking for leniency. Osman Sheikh Yusuf says, I truly am honored to call Abdi Rahman my friend, and I hope that good things happen to this wonderful young man who totally deserves a second chance in life. But those letters and defense attorneys' request for a lighter sentence might not be enough to convince a judge. U.S. Attorney Andy Lugar has filed a response arguing against any lightened sentence. As to the defense claims, some of the men were immature and were therefore impulsive. He says there was nothing impulsive about the defendant's decision to continue to try and reach Syria, despite the FBI's numerous attempts to stop them. And in response to Ilhan Omar's defense attorneys who characterized the men as three stooges, Lugar writes to the judge it was a very dangerous conspiracy and that it was far from comedians engaged in slapstick.
So y'all get the idea when it comes down to it. Says Ilhan Omar is a thief, and y'all know what, and she shouldn't be in office. What's left, America? Because of you're literally asking what, just begging the judge to get a slap on the wrist. Like I'm highly confused. It has here where they're involved in a money laundering operation as well. And me personally, if you sitting there begging, obviously it's just not because they're Somalian. It's because again, obviously they probably work for her. You know what I mean? Truly. Says Trump is determined to dry up all the Democrat money laundering operations in the country. This is Colin McDonald, the new fraud czar, who first assignment in Minnesota. His first assignment is in Minnesota. Says right here, who else wants to find out how Ilhan Omar went from negative? I truly don't know. I'm still to this day trying to figure it out, which we obviously know when we have, and talking about this. And it says somebody comment next California, then Illinois. It's a lot of places. Ohio. It's a lot of places you can name, definitely. But check it out right here.
Them. Fraud czar nominee Colin McDonald testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee today. Correspondent David Spont shows us tonight from Capitol Hill.
Fraudsters should never be allowed to rip off the United States of America.
The man handpicked by President Trump to lead a new anti-fraud office inside the Justice Department came to Congress with a message.
No fraud is too big for the Department of Justice, and no fraud is too small for the Department of Justice.
Some Democrats questioning whether the new position should even be established.
The worst examples of waste, fraud, and abuse in recent years are coming from inside the Trump administration. Want to root out fraud? Start at the top.
If confirmed, Colin McDonald will focus on Minnesota, where Republicans allege fraud is rampant. He also put a spotlight on elder fraud cases across the country.
And it's not just the grandmothers and the grandfathers, it's also their family members who bear the weight of these scams and the fraud that's perpetrated against them.
Democrats pointing to concerns about the independence of the new position after this in January.
It will be run out of the White House under the supervision of me and the President of the United States.
And this last night at the State of the Union.
The war on fraud to be led by our great Vice President J.D. Vance.
But McDonald, if confirmed, will report directly to the Attorney and Deputy Attorney General, who both shut down other anti-fraud units like the Consumer Protection Branch and Tax Division.
Anti-money laundering violations are down 54%. Investigations into tax fraud schemes are down 63%.
As you mentioned late this afternoon, Vice President Vance said that the administration would be pausing some Medicaid funding to Minnesota, but he did not give specifics there. Speaking of Minnesota, Governor Tim Walz and State Attorney General Keith Ellison will be here on Capitol Hill, Brett, next week to answer questions before Congress on TV.
And they definitely did, get caught up in a lot of stuff, that they were asked. Truly, I'm not gonna lie. One thing about it though, I cannot wait till we do have a lot of action instead of a lot of talk, and I know that it takes time with a lot of stuff, and I truly don't want it to be where it's something and then it's like, okay, let's do this, and it's not enough. I want them to gather as much information as possible and get everything on, because we're not talking about, even if it was just a little money, man, this is a lot of money. A lot of money. We're talking about a person who went from $65K to $30 million in a year. I'm telling y'all, definitely insane. One thing about it though, and I definitely wanted to show y'all, to make sure, and to be right, within it all. because it's something that I definitely feel as if it's right to show a lot of individuals what's truly going on and what the American people want. President Trump is now more popular than Obama and Bush at this point. In their second presidential terms, it says right here. Check it out.
If you look at the Real Clear Politics average of polls for presidents at this moment, at this day, and you look at that chart, President Trump is at 43.3%, President Obama at 42.5%, President Bush at 38.7%. March 5th.
Mm-hmm. So, again, you have not only this, but you have President Trump is, again, more. I mean, you're literally not only having Fox News, because I know, Fox News is they're gonna give it to you. At times, I should say. At times. I know a lot of people are probably mad at me, but and one thing about me is, y'all know I'm gonna call it out, and be truthful with a lot. I'm not gonna sugarcoat nothing. I'm gonna be real with y'all as much as possible. And it's one of those things, just right or wrong, no matter who you are. But you have CNN right here. Check it out.
Love Donald Trump more than any president's own party supporters loved him at this particular point. Just take a look here. Okay, own party supporters, 21st century presidents, own party approval, about at this point in the second term. Bush was at 77%. Obama was at 77%. Look at this. 86% of Republicans approve of the job that Donald Trump is doing at this point. That is higher than either Obama or Bush had within their own party at this point. Trump's magic touch has not seen a war off yet when it comes to the Republican base.
And what kind of approval are we talking about here?
Okay, so we're talking about overall approval here. How about the strongly approved, not just like, but love. Okay, we're going to look at these same presidents again. Strong approval among your own party's base. What you see here is Trump is the only one who gets a majority at this point in their presidency. Obama was at 48%. Bush was at 47%. You see here Trump at 53%. Not as high as overall approval rating, but still getting a majority of the Republican base, at least in the average of polls, to say that they still really, really, really like him.
Okay.
Y'all have it right there. People truly, again, and not only obviously among his own party, but at the same time, there's others that are making a lot of sense, and actually, I'm not even gonna lie, there's a lot of people on the left that's actually turning things around, and actually waking up and seeing, what's real. I'm not gonna lie. Definitely have to show this, this last clip, because it is truly real. And this is, obviously going towards, when it comes down to Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar. Check it out right here, President Trump.
I think you have two problems. Number one, you have $19 billion worth of stolen money. At least. I think the number is going to be much higher. And you have that in California. You have it in other states also, I believe, when you go through it. So that's a big problem. And then you have the agitators, anarchists. I watched sort of everything. I see it all. And I see people screaming, shame, shame. This is not people that are like living in Minnesota. These are professional, paid people. They're like actors. I mean, I watched the guy last night in the church. He was, and not just Don Lemon. Don Lemon's a loser. But I watched the guy last night in the church. This guy's a professional guy, and he actually admits to it. He gets paid a lot of money to go and cause trouble. And you see that. What they don't see is that ICE gets rid of murderers, drug dealers, Tren de Aragua, I mean, the worst gang in the world, anywhere in the world, MS-13, Tren. But these are the worst gangs, and they get rid of them. They take them out. And I say something's wrong when a place like Minnesota, which is a good place, it's got a horrible governor, it's got horrible people. This Ilhan Omar is horrible. I mean, she comes from a country that doesn't even have a government. They have nothing. And she comes here and she lectures us on the Constitution. She's got constitutional rights. She's just horrible. Somebody said she's worth $30 million. Well, therefore, she's obviously a very dishonest person. And she should be looked at for that. So you have a couple of things. You have the money thing, and then you have the all of the fake nonsense going on and screaming. The people, they're so professional. They hold their cameras up high, and it's a terrible thing going on in Minnesota. Well,
y'all see it. One thing about it is that I cannot wait to, again, for it to be more so of action. Things done. You know what I mean? Things done. Rather than all this talking, well, I think, for things to actually be done, for things to be, when it comes to Tim Walz, when it comes to Keith Ellison, there's so many individuals. I'm not going to lie. And I ain't trying to over-exaggerate when I say this, but there's thousands. I know this is about to sound bad, and I know some of y'all about to agree, but thousands. Thousands, y'all. When it comes to deportations, when it comes to prison time, I'm telling y'all. Because it's too much going on. I'm not just talking about Minnesota. People got to realize what's going on and wake up. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe. But definitely appreciate y'all. Much love, everybody. Stay tuned for the next video, y'all. I'm telling y'all. Stay tuned for the next video. And hopefully, I'll probably drop it after this video, or I'll drop it the next day. My mom is going to Thailand. I think she's going to Thailand for like 3 months. So tomorrow, this whole week has been a little bit odd. Seeing what my daughter had went through, my birthday, and then my mom leaving. Her and my dad is, yeah. Her and my dad is actually, I'm pretty sure her and my dad are going to Turkey. And then they're going to, I feel like I'm giving out too much information. But anyways, going out of town and trying to spend time, with the family. So if I don't get this second video dropped, I know this probably would be dropped. If I don't get that second video dropped tonight, it'll be dropped the next day. But y'all want to stay tuned for that. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Definitely appreciate y'all. Much love, everybody. Catch y'all next one.